So everybody online is obsessed with being a software engineer. They'll tell you to learn to code, build apps, grind leak code. But here's what nobody tells you. Getting hired as a data analyst is 10 times easier than landing a software engineering job. And I'm saying that as somebody who did both. In this video, I'll break down exactly why this is true and what makes data roles more accessible and why they actually might be a smarter entry point into tech for some people. Let's get into it. So, if you're new, my name is Zazo. I'm currently a senior data analyst, and I've been a data analyst for 4 years at this point. And previously, I was in the software engineering space, primarily dealing with back end. So I have a little experience in both of these roles and knowing what it takes to be in these roles. And the difference between the two is night and day. When I was trying to get into software engineering, it felt like I was trying to break into Fort Knox. Hundreds of applications, technical interviews, data structures and algorithms, system design questions. Meanwhile, when I transitioned to data analytics, I started getting interviews faster. And that's not suddenly because I got smarter or something. It's that the barriers for this data analytics role or these roles were totally different. Software engineering is about building systems. Data analytics is more about understanding systems and being able to communicate insights. And the second point there, the communicating insights, is something that companies need everywhere, even if they don't have a big engineering team. So now I'm going to get into some of the things that make it 10 times easier. One, it's a lower barrier to entry, specifically for the technical barrier. So to get a software engineering job, you're competing against people who've been coding for years. You're expected to know data structures, algorithms, frameworks, design patterns, testing, CI, CD. And on top of that, you have to pass a lot of the times multiple technical interviews. But for data analytics, the technical bar is much, much lower. For entry level roles, you want to know some of the basic things like SQL, Excel, or some type of Google Sheets, a data visualization tool, Tableau, Power BI, and maybe a little bit of Python or R. I specifically recommend Python. This can give you an edge. It's not always required though. And that's it. You can go from beginner to employable in under a year, sometimes even less, whereas software engineering can easily take 2 to 3 years to be competitive because of all the different skills and things that you kind of need to learn and showcase. The next reason is every company needs data. So demand for these data analytics roles are everywhere. Every company, big or small, needs to understand their numbers. So sales, marketing, users, performance, even a small e-commerce shop wants someone who can track what's working and what's not working. But not every company needs a software engineer because startups often outsource or buy some type of software, especially if that's not their main product. But they always need somebody who can interpret data and help them make better decisions. So the job market for a data analyst is broader, more diverse, and often way easier to get into because overall there's less competition per role. So another huge thing is the interview process. I've done both multiple different times. So when you apply for a software engineering role, you'll go through technical screens, coding challenges, and even sometimes whiteboard interviews. Previously, when I tried to get my first software engineering job, I had a whiteboard interview. And I was cooked. I was also very fresh in, but I was cooked. But for a data analyst interview, they're way more practical. Instead of asking stuff like reverse a linked list, you'll get questions like, how would you find duplicate roles in SQL? What metrics would you use to measure user retention? How would you visualize this data set? It's really less about memorizing algorithms that are arbitrary and you might never actually use on the job. And it's more about thinking clearly and communicating well. And honestly, that can be an easier skill to demonstrate, especially if you already have the domain knowledge. The next thing here is going to be it's actually easier to show real value. As a beginner software engineer, your products rarely make an impact. You're building, clones, tutorials, you have unfinished projects, things like that. But as a data analyst, you can grab public data and create real insights. You can analyze YouTube trends, Spotify data, or something like stock performance, which is something that I did, and instantly show how your work connects to real decisions. And that can be gold in a job interview. Recruiters don't need to imagine what you can do and what you can bring to the table. They can actually see it. So the last and final reason is data analytics is one of the biggest stepping stones into tech. So once you get in as a data analyst, you'll probably be surrounded by engineers, product managers, and other business stakeholders. You'll learn how the data flows through systems. You'll learn SQL pretty deeply, and you'll build real intuition for how products work. From there, you can transition into data engineering or software engineering or even product roles. So a lot of the times as a software engineer, you're building stuff, but you don't know the end-to-end solution that your feature is a part of. And with data analytics, I really learned how to see how the data flows through a system. And I was able to mentally connect as a software engineer previously. If I built this feature, this is where it would come in place in this whole pipeline or system. And that's very powerful in, for the next step of transferring into software engineering. You are very aware of how the data is actually used and what impact it actually has. So yeah, while people are sitting here fighting for the same software engineering roles, a lot of people are sleeping on data analytics. Like I said, it's faster to break into, it's easier to break into, and it still pays pretty well. If you're trying to get your foot in the door, you might want to consider data analytics first. There are skills that come from this role that can really help and propel you into a software engineering or data analytics or data engineering type of role that makes you a more well-rounded software engineer rather than just somebody who can write code, in a vacuum. So this is going to be the end of the video. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next one.